Sometimes the strangest legacies arrive when we least expect them, and sometimes they carry the power to change everything we thought we knew about our families, our past, and even our future. For Elliot Granger, life had unraveled into hardship. His father was gone, his marriage had ended in betrayal, and his custody battle for his 8-year-old daughter Lena felt like a fight he couldn't win. But the strangest twist of all came in the form of a will, his father's last message. That didn't leave behind money or land or even a house. Instead, tucked inside a stack of dry legal papers, Elliot inherited something no sane man could have imagined. A rusting Cold War-era Soviet submarine stranded in the marshes of Virginia, far from any sea, 300 yards from navigable water, swallowed by reeds, vines, and decades of silence. Locals whispered it was haunted, a relic of forgotten wars best left untouched. But Elliot was desperate, and desperation has a way of pushing people toward doors everyone else avoids. Standing there in the morning mist, staring at the massive steel leviathan, his daughter clutching his hand, he wondered if his father had left behind more than just rusting metal. Because sometimes, when life corners you, the only way out is forward. And forward, in this case, meant into the belly of a machine that shouldn't exist where it sat. The submarine looked like a sleeping whale. Lena had whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Unlike adults who saw only problems, children often see magic where the rest of us see ruin. Elliot had been an engineer once, but those days were gone, downsized, replaced, outmatched by bills and legal papers. Now all he saw was a chance. The deed named the vessel Leviathan, and his father had scrawled a single cryptic note. "The truth is in the deep places, son. Lena will show you the way." That message gnawed at him because he hadn't spoken to his father in 15 years. The man had vanished when Elliot turned 18, and his absence had left scars that no inheritance could heal. Yet here was this impossible gift, or curse, waiting to be unlocked. As Elliot studied the corroded hatches, a woman appeared from the reeds, boots sinking into mud like she belonged there. Katia Volkov, she introduced herself, a botanist surveying the marsh. But her Eastern European accent and the way her eyes lingered on the submarine said she knew more than she admitted. She spoke of its arrival in 1983, how the Coast Guard had searched it, declared it abandoned, and left it to rot. Yet she mentioned something else, that Elliot's father had visited often, always alone, always leaving flowers. And when Lena pressed her small ear against the hull and whispered that it was humming, that it was alive, Elliot felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Children notice things adults overlook. While Elliot struggled to make sense of Katia's calm knowledge of his father, Lena tugged at a rusted hatch and pulled free a small notebook, sealed in plastic, tucked where no accident could have placed it. Inside, in his father's familiar handwriting, were diagrams, coordinates, and notes under a name that sounded like the stuff of classified nightmares: Operation Poseidon. His father had written of a safe built into the submarine itself, a vault protected by 3 locks, mechanical, electronic, and something more cryptic, emotional. The final words chilled him. Lena has the 3rd key. She always did. Elliot had no idea what that meant, but Katia's steady gaze suggested she did. His father had lived a double life, something larger than the role of absentee parent who vanished into excuses about important work. And if the hum inside that submarine was any sign, then whatever he had died protecting was still alive. Elliot didn't want to believe, but desperation leaves little room for doubt. The foreclosure on his house loomed, his custody hearing approached, and his daughter deserved more than defeat. He told himself he was just searching for answers, but when he pried open the hatch and caught the scent of oil and flowers drifting from within, he knew he was stepping into something far bigger than survival. Inside, time seemed to fold in on itself. The air was stale but breathable, emergency lights still glowed faintly after 4 decades, and corridors built for war now whispered of secrets no one had been meant to find. Lena darted ahead with fearless curiosity, her backpack full of crackers and crayons, while Elliot trailed, every engineer's instinct screaming at the impossibility of systems still running. Signs of human care lingered, fresh flowers in a cup, a logbook left open, even a pair of reading glasses. Someone had been here recently. In the captain's quarters, Elliot found a shrine, photographs of Soviet officers, medals, and roses no older than yesterday. One portrait bore the name Captain Viktor Petrov, and Katia, her voice soft, admitted the truth. He was her grandfather. This was no abandoned relic. It was a tomb, a memory, and a mission all at once. But deeper still, hidden behind reinforced plating, Elliot and Lena uncovered it. The safe, vast and intricate, glowing faintly as if it had waited for them. The design was unlike anything Elliot had ever seen, too advanced for its era, a blend of dials, electronics, and something else, something personal. Before he could process it, Lena pressed her hand against a scanner, and the submarine answered. Lights flickered, gears shifted, and a mechanical voice spoke from the dark, authorization recognized, awaiting additional protocols. The words echoed like a summons, and that was when the footsteps sounded above. Someone else was coming. Katia's face hardened. She had known this moment would come, and now Elliot realized she hadn't just been studying plants. She had been guarding this place, honoring her grandfather, waiting for the right people to arrive. But not everyone who came was right. The clang of boots on the hull above told them they weren't alone, and the hiss of cutting tools against steel confirmed it wasn't locals. Professional treasure hunters had tracked the whispers, drawn by rumors of gold worth hundreds of millions. Elliot wanted to protect Lena, but the safe had already spoken, and in that moment he understood. They were inside a trap built to test them. The first lock, Lena had opened it with her bloodline. The second required mechanical knowledge, the kind his father had secretly trained into him through puzzles and stories disguised as childhood lessons. But the third, emotional, moral, something no machine could measure. As Elliot worked the dials, aligning them with data scribbled in Victor's logbooks, Lena pointed to carved reliefs. Scenes of families torn apart, businesses stolen, children exiled. She said softly, "It's a story, Daddy, you have to follow it." And when he pressed the panels in sequence, family, loss, then hope, the safe side open. But their triumph lasted only seconds because 3 men stepped into the torpedo room, weapons raised, their leader smiling with cruel satisfaction. "Finally," he said, eyes on the vault, "the treasure is ours." Elliot pulled Lena behind him, but the safe had already decided their fate. With a hydraulic groan, it opened, not to reveal stacks of gleaming gold, but shelves of meticulously preserved documents, photographs, and records. An entire archive of Nazi theft, Soviet recovery, and Jewish families whose lives had been erased by war. And then, through hidden speakers, a voice from the past filled the room. Captain Viktor Petrov, recorded decades earlier, spoke of duty, sacrifice, and a mission greater than any one man. "The gold is safe," he declared. "What you hold now is the key to returning it. Only those who understand justice may continue." From a hidden compartment slid a brass cipher wheel inscribed with coordinates and symbols. The treasure hunters stared in fury. This was history, not wealth, and they advanced, weapons steady. But the submarine itself rebelled. Bulkheads sealed, corridors flooded, and systems roared to life as if Victor had planned for this very intrusion. The hunters were trapped in a maze, their greed useless against steel and memory. Elliot clutched the cipher wheel, realizing his father hadn't abandoned him at all. He had been preparing him for this destiny. But preparation meant nothing without choice, and now Elliot had to decide, fight for himself or fight for the truth. With Katia's guidance, Elliot deciphered the wheel, revealing coordinates and instructions tied to an organization he'd never heard of, the International Committee for Holocaust Asset Recovery. The gold wasn't meant to enrich anyone. It was meant to restore what had been stolen, to return fragments of dignity to families nearly erased from history. And then came the final revelation. His father, Thomas Granger, had not been an insurance adjuster at all. He had been CIA, working alongside survivors and Viktor Petrov to protect the treasure from governments, criminals, and collectors who would twist it for profit. Every absence, every silence, every missed birthday had been sacrifice. Elliot felt anger and grief clash inside him, but Lena's small voice cut through. "He was protecting us, Daddy, protecting them too." And she was right. Outside, the thrum of rotor blades signaled the arrival of the recovery team. Armed, authorized, prepared. The submarine was no longer a secret. It was a beacon of justice. The treasure hunters were captured, the archives preserved, and Elliot faced his daughter with a truth that mattered more than any inheritance. Sometimes the greatest gift a parent leaves behind is not money or comfort, but a chance to stand for something bigger than yourself. By the time the sun set over the marsh, the Leviathan was no longer just a rusting monument. It had become a memorial, a story locked in steel now passed to those who would honor it. Elliot knew his cost. Custody battle still lay ahead, but he also knew he carried something stronger than bank accounts or legal arguments. He carried legacy, purpose, and the kind of story no judge could ignore. And Lena, skipping through the reeds, had already claimed the submarine as hers, not a machine of war, but a doorway to justice. Katia would stay to oversee the recovery. Elliot would join the committee to lend his engineering skills, and together they would ensure the gold found its way back to those it was stolen from. As for the rest of us, the story reminds us that treasure isn't always what glitters. Sometimes it's memory, sometimes it's justice, and sometimes it's the courage to do what's right when everything is on the line. If you've been hooked on this journey, make sure you subscribe, because more stories like this, stories of hidden legacies, buried truths, and extraordinary courage, are waiting for you tomorrow. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.